Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown is a fun game, and it certainly has its moments, but I think we can all agree the launch was an absolute disaster. I went in earlier today and highlighted 5 key things that I think the developers could maybe make some changes on that would take Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown from a game with great potential to simply a great game, and that is what I wanted to talk about today. Side note, I don't want this video to just be a video. I want this video to be more of like a conversation where you and your friends are just talking about the latest racing game, and I want you guys to pitch in and share some of your thoughts in the comments. If you guys have things that you want me to add to this list of 5 things, or even remove from this list of 5 things, let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to have a conversation. So anyways, without further ado, let's jump into my 5 key things that I think need fixing or changing, improving, a little bit of everything. And to be honest, I think there's only one place where we can start this video. We need to address the elephant in the room: always online. I'm not even going to spend too much time here because I feel like everybody has already done that, but there are some key things that relate to always online that I haven't seen too many people talking about just yet, and I think those are pretty important as well, so let's jump in. Obviously, when the game came out on September 5th, there were countless server issues. Nobody could get onto the game pretty much, it felt like, first try. Myself, personally, I had to wait almost 4 hours to get into the game. Server issues aside, though, I think there's a ton of fundamental game design that relates to the always online architecture of this game that have negatively impacted TDU Solar Crown in a massive way. For example, when you're in a race, you cannot pause the race because the game was built with always online at its focus. Every single race was designed so you would be racing online, and because of that, the developers don't allow you to pause the game even if you're racing against only AI. And it even goes a step further than that. Let's just say you're driving in your race against only AI opponents and you have a skill issue. It's happened to all of us. Some more than others, but say you have a skill issue, you put your car into the wall and you're like, oh well, let's restart the race. You can't, because there is no restart button in the game. Even if you're racing only against AI, you cannot restart a race. The only way you can do it is quitting the race, going back to the start location, restarting the race that way. There's no one button click, which is just, it's so annoying. As we're on the topic of the AI and always online, they are related in another way, fundamentally, that's built into the game. Again, because TDU thinks you're going to be doing races online, they opted to not give you a difficulty slider in the game. The difficulty in TDU Solar Crown just basically adjusts based off how far into the game you are, and you at no point can choose what difficulty you play on. Which, if you ask me, is a massive accessibility issue. You watching this video, you're probably a fan of cars, and you're probably pretty decent at these car games, so this issue probably doesn't impact you. But like all of us car fans, we fell in love with cars at a young age, and since there's no difficulty slider in the game, and if you're a little kid playing this game, after you pass a certain point in the game, the AI is probably just going to be better than you. And because there is no difficulty slider, if you're a little kid and you reach that point where the AI are just better than you, sucks to be you, I guess. You won't get any further into the game. 2 more quick points about always online. Number 1, every single transaction you do in TDU Solar Crown has to go back to the servers. Basically what that means is when you're upgrading a car and you're spending money on a car, every single part that you purchase for that car, the game needs to go, okay, you have this much money. Yep, send to the server. Okay, server goes, yep, you have this much money. Okay, allow him to purchase. Okay, now purchase. There's always this big step that goes on, and that is a very slow process. And every single transaction can take, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds or so, which may not sound very much, but when you need to do 10 upgrades to your car, 15 upgrades to your car, it definitely adds up when you're just sitting there waiting for transactions to complete. And the last thing I'll say about always online is that at the moment, TDU Solar Crown is region locked. I am from North America, which means I play on North American servers. However, a lot of my friends are in the UK, which means they play on European servers. Because the game is region locked, you cannot play with people in another region. I didn't want to spend too much time on the server issues. I could probably make an entire video about the server issues, but we'll move on to my second point. TDU Solar Crown has a bunch of missing features. I feel like I can speak for almost the entire TDU community who have played TDU 1 or TDU 2. I guarantee you, if you played one of those older games, have an amazing memory related to one of the following: buying cool houses, going to the casino, going to cool clothes shops, or doing those stupid license tests that pissed me off when I was a kid playing those games. TDU Solar Crown is lacking in all 4 of those areas. And I know they've already come out and said, hey, we're gonna be adding in houses after launch. We're gonna be adding the casino in after launch. They also said the servers would be better at launch after their numerous beta tests. I feel like I don't need to go any further than that, but actions do speak louder than words, so we'll have to see. And if you want to take it a step further, sometimes it's the lack of actions that speak louder than any of the words that can be said. At the time of recording this video, the developers actually have this on their website when talking about the different race types in TDU Solar Crown. They say not just races. Your racing schedule will also include meetings, transportation missions, and convoys. I don't know about you guys, but throughout my playthrough of TDU Solar Crown, I haven't done a single one of those missions just yet. For the simple fact that they're not in the game. I think you can see what I mean now when I say I'll take the actions, or in some cases, the lack of actions, instead of the word. Anyways, let's move on to point number 3 and something highly controversial. Let's talk about grinding and progression. Pretty much every single person watching this video will have a different definition of what grinding and progression is, and if you ask them to define their ideal progression in a racing game, pretty much every single person would have a different answer. And it's the developer's job to figure out a version of progression that kind of works for everybody. And to be honest, TDU Solar Crowns is really good. There are some issues with it, though. Again, this is only in my personal opinion, but TDU Solar Crown kind of feels like one of those games where it wants you to grind for stuff. Every now and again, it'll want you to do a couple of races back-to-back so you can get enough money so you can buy that next upgrade, or do a bunch of races back-to-back so you could save up and buy that fancy supercar. However, at the same time, it will also nerf you and nerf your payouts if you try to grind it. I experienced this the other day myself when I was trying to go and grind through some off-road races. I had a secondary task where I needed to earn like 150,000 credits by doing off-road races, and I only had 2 races that counted towards. One of those races I found significantly more fun than the other one, so I just went to do that one over and over and over again, and the first couple of times, it worked well. I got my regular payout and my regular XP for it. However, when I got to like the 4th or the 5th try doing it, I noticed my payouts started to reduce and reduce and reduce. And it actually is so dramatic and so like limiting in a sense. If you normally finish a race in 4th place, you'll get like 2,000 XP or something like that. When I finished my race after 30 minutes of grinding the same race over and over, I only got 600 XP. It just feels a little bit weird because the game wants me to go and grind for stuff, but when I go to try to grind for stuff, I get punished for doing it. It honestly feels like these limits are only in place so you pause what you're doing and come back the following day so you log in again and do it all over again. And that, from a player perspective, is so annoying. Let's move on to point number 4, though, and let's talk about the graphics and the optimization, or I should say, the lack of optimization. I don't think it's any secret that TDU Solar Crown is not a great looking game. I'm very quickly gonna get a little bit nerdy and talk about PC specs and frame rates and stuff like that, okay? So bear with me. Like I said, I'm playing this game on the PC, and currently in my PC, I've got a 3070 Ti. It's not the greatest graphics card ever, but it's a common graphics card. It's a popular one, like a lot of people have it. And at the moment, I'm able to play 1080p 60 on high quality. However, there is a bit of a problem. You know how I mentioned always online before? I've discovered something, or at least I think I've discovered something. Somebody with way more knowledge about how TDU Solar Crown works in like the back end is gonna need to confirm this. I don't know if it's something the developers have confirmed, but I have a theory TDU Solar Crown is an always online game because it uses cloud computing, or at least that's my theory. Like I said, with my graphics card, I can play 1080p 60 at high quality. However, I can't if the servers are experiencing issues. When the game came out and was experiencing all of those server issues, the more server issues the game was experiencing, the lower the quality I had to turn my game quality to, all the way down to low at 1080p 60. I don't want to spend too much time talking about graphics, though, because I feel like that's another point a lot of people have been talking about recently. Let's just move on to point number 5, and let's talk about physics. Again, the same way about progression, everybody out there has a physics engine that they just like better than another one. everybody has like little unique intricacies about like, oh, they might like this from that game or this from that game. And if they mesh together, oh, it'd be perfect physics, but that's not the way it works. So again, this is very personal preference, but let's jump into it anyway. So I feel like TDU Solar Crown's physics are, for the most part, baked in reality and pretty decent. However, sometimes the cars feel like they're doing things that don't really make too much sense, and I feel like those key things could use some work. On-road driving, for the most part, actually feels pretty good. There are only two little nitpicky things that I feel like should be mentioned. One, I feel like slow speed turning is atrocious, and the cars just have zero turning circle, it feels like. And at some points, and depending on what car you're driving, the brakes don't feel very good or don't feel like they're doing anything sometimes. If you ask me, it's the off-road physics that could actually use more work. When you're just driving in a straight line, things kind of feel okay, but as soon as you get to the corners, the cars just don't react properly. It feels like the cars are not using their suspension to their advantage. Like off-road cars, one of the main ways off-road cars get grip when off-roading is by compressing and decompressing their suspension. And it feels like in TDU Solar Crown, the cars don't do that very well. It also feels like a lot of the time, and again, depending on what car you're driving around in, off-road understeer is atrocious and sometimes almost veering on undrivable. The cars don't turn. And when you get slower speed, the cars turn even less off-road, which you think you could just power it out, but because the suspension isn't working correctly to kind of plant the back of the car and swing it around correctly, you kind of have two things that aren't working properly and kind of affect the physics when you're off-roading in a negative way. So there you go. Those are my 5 things I would love to see changed, fixed, implemented for TDU Solar Crown. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good day. Goodbye now.